To get started, I'd like to introduce the spindles. We have here a skeletal muscle or extrafusal muscle. Inside it, deep inside it, we have the spindles here, or intrafusal muscles. The spindles detect changes in length. They're connected to afferent neurons and also motor neurons, and I'll talk about them in this part. We also have the tendons. Tendons detect changes in tension. So now let's deal with the spindles. Let's have a closer look. You can see here the extrafusal muscles, and here we see the spindle. The afferent neurons at the spindle are two types. Type 1A, large diameter in the center, low threshold, high speed. They get activated first. If the strength of the stimulus increases, we can also activate the second type, type 2, small diameter secondary fibers, as you see here at the poles, high threshold. These are sensory neurons. They go to the dorsal root ganglion, to the spinal cord, to synapse on motor neurons, which I will show in the next slide. And we also have the efferent neurons, the motor neurons. Alpha motor neuron that comes back from the spinal cord to activate the muscle. You can see here. But we also have the gamma motor neurons that are required to keep the spindle under tension. However, I'll not talk about the gamma motor neurons in this part. I'll discuss it in a separate part. So here we have the first type of reflex. This is a stretch reflex, patellar reflex. We tap the patellar ligament and extend the quadriceps. Okay? So we activate the muscle spindle. Remember, the muscle spindle detects changes in length. So it gets activated, and then it sends off the sensors, the sensory neuron. This sensory neuron goes to the spinal cord via this dorsal root ganglion, as you can see here. Now, the sensory neuron synapses on a motor neuron, as you can see here in red. This motor neuron goes back to the muscle to contract it. So now we contract the quadriceps, which is an extensor. So the knee kicks up. At the same time, the sensory neuron synapses on an interneuron, which is inhibitory. This inhibitory interneuron inhibits the motor neuron, which would otherwise activate the hamstring, which is the antagonist of the quadriceps. So we activate the quadriceps. At the same time, we inhibit the flexor, the hamstring. And this is done by the action of this inhibitory interneuron. I would also like to stress that in some cases, the sensory neuron can go up to the brain. It can send information to the brain and also receive information back from the brain. Now the second type of reflex, the flexor reflex. Here, I have all the notes here for you. What I had here is the following. This withdrawal reflex. In this case, the sensory neuron is nociceptive. Okay? So this is a flexor withdrawal reflex. It has to happen instantly to protect us. Okay? This is polysynaptic. So let me show you here again. Here we step on something sharp. Sensory receptor is a pain-sensitive neuron. You can see here. Goes up to the spinal cord. There you see. It synapses on interneurons, and this interneuron is excitatory. It synapses on a motor neuron, which goes back to the flexor muscle. But please note the following. Because this reflex has to occur very fast, and we have here a strong muscle that has to be activated instantly. A strong and a big muscle has to be activated instantly. So we need different motor neurons, a large number of motor neurons. So this is why when the sensory neuron goes up to the spinal cord, It synapses at different levels of the spinal cord. You see, it goes up and down the spinal cord levels, activating different motor neurons. You can see here from higher and lower segments of the spinal cord. And all of these motor neurons, you see here, from the higher and the lower segments, they go back to the same muscle, which is here, okay, the flexor muscle. And this flexor muscle is then, you see, it's withdrawn very rapidly. Now, the final reflex, the crossed extensor reflex. Again, a sensory neuron here gets activated, okay? It sends information to the spinal cord. This information goes up and down the spinal cord levels, thereby activating different motor neurons. So we have here an instant withdrawal reflex. This is the right leg, okay? We now withdraw the right leg. Now, in order to keep standing, the left leg has to remain standing, as you see here. So we pull the right leg, and we have to keep standing. So the left leg has to keep standing. So let's see what happens. Again, remember, this was the sensory neuron from the right leg, goes up to the spinal cord, okay? And then to the higher levels and to the lower levels in order to activate the flexor muscle, which is the right leg. In the case of the left leg, we have to do exactly the opposite. We have to activate the extension. So what we see here is the following: the sensory neuron, the same sensory neuron from the right leg that went up to the spinal cord. It synapses on excitatory interneurons, as you see here, and it goes to the opposite side, you see, which we call contralateral side. Several interneurons activate motor neurons up and down the spinal cord, thereby sending this information to the extensor muscle of the contralateral leg, which is the left leg in this case. So here we are activating the extensor muscle. Let me summarize. The right leg is flexed. The left leg is extended. I hope this was helpful.